The sun was burning hot as President Ibrahim Traoré and his guards drove along a dusty road. They had been on the move since morning, attending different events, shaking hands and giving speeches. Everyone was tired, but Ibrahim Traoré was feeling something more. He was very hungry. Sitting at the back of his black SUV, he spoke, "I need to eat. I can't take it anymore." One of his guards, a tall man with sharp eyes, quickly replied, "Sir, we know a fancy restaurant not too far from here. Very clean, very safe." Another guard added, "Yes, sir. Only important people eat there. It's the best." President Ibrahim Traoré shook his head and smiled slightly. I don't trust those places. Too many enemies are watching me. Those big restaurants, anything can happen there." The guards exchanged worried looks. One whispered, "But sir, a local restaurant is too risky," I said. "No," Ibrahim said calmly but firmly. "Find me a simple place, a local restaurant somewhere the common people eat." They obeyed without another word. In 10 minutes, they parked beside a small old restaurant with a faded signboard swinging in the breeze. The smell of fried fish and spicy stew filled the air. Simple people sat under the shade laughing and eating. Ibrahim smiled. "This is real life," he said as he stepped out of the car. His guards quickly surrounded him, trying not to attract too much attention. An old man with gray hair and tired eyes welcomed them. "Good afternoon, my sons. Come sit. We have the best food in town." They sat at a corner table. The guards carefully checked the area, making sure everything looked safe. The restaurant owner, excited to serve such important guests, rushed to the kitchen. Soon, a plate of hot rice and stew was placed in front of President Ibrahim. His mouth watered at the delicious smell. He picked up his spoon and was about to take the first bite when suddenly a poor-looking old woman appeared from nowhere. Her clothes were torn, and she walked with a slight limp. Without saying a word, she rushed to the table, grabbed the president's plate of food, and threw it onto the floor. The guards jumped up, their hands moving to their guns. The customers gasped. Some even stood up to watch the drama. "How dare you!" shouted one of the guards. "Beat her!" another yelled. But President Ibrahim raised his hand. "No," he said. "Leave her. She is someone's mother. Maybe she is not well mentally." The guards lowered their weapons, but they were still angry. The woman stood silently, breathing heavily, her eyes locked on Ibrahim. The restaurant owner, shaking with fear, apologized 1,000 times. "Sir, I am so sorry. Please let me bring another plate." Soon, another plate of hot food was placed in front of Ibrahim. Once again, just as he picked up his spoon, the old woman rushed forward. This time, she grabbed the plate, sat on the floor, and began eating the food quickly with her bare hands. The guards lost their patience. "Enough is enough," one roared, moving to grab her again. And Ibrahim stopped them. "Leave her," he said quietly. "If she is hungry, let her eat." The customers whispered among themselves. Some thought the woman was mad. Others thought it was a bad sign. The restaurant owner, embarrassed beyond words, brought a third plate of food. The smell was even sweeter. The rice was perfectly cooked, and the meat looked tender and juicy. Ibrahim picked up a spoon once again, but this time before he could take a bite, the old woman stood up slowly. Her eyes were clear now, not wild like before. She spoke in a strong, serious voice. "Young man," she said, calling the president a young man without knowing who he was. "If you love your life, do not eat this food. Disaster will strike if you do." The restaurant fell completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. President Ibrahim stared at her, his anger rising. He had been patient. He had respected her. But now she was crossing the line. "I am hungry, woman," he said, his voice cold. "I have respected you enough. How dare you stand there and tell me not to eat?" The old woman didn't move. She simply stared at him, her eyes filled with sadness and something else. "Fear. Eat it and you will regret it," she said again. The guards were now furious. One moved to drag the woman away, but Ibrahim raised his hand once more. "Stop," he ordered. His eyes narrowed as he stared at the old woman. Something about her words touched a deep place inside him. "Bring me the restaurant owner," he said. The old man came running, his hands shaking. "Yes, sir. Who cooked this food?" Ibrahim asked. "My wife, sir. She is the cook," the man replied nervously. "Call her." The man ran into the kitchen. Minutes later, a woman with an apron and a nervous smile appeared. She looked terrified. "Did you cook this food yourself?" Ibrahim asked. "Yes, sir," she stammered. "Bring me your hand," he said. The woman, confused, held out her hands. Ibrahim looked at her palms. Then he looked at her face. Beads of sweat rolled down her forehead. Her eyes darted around like a trapped animal. "You are lying," Ibrahim said quietly. The old woman at the corner nodded slowly. The restaurant owner looked shocked. "My wife, she would never." President Ibrahim stood up. "Search the kitchen." He ordered his guards. Within minutes, they found something hidden under the cooking counter. A small bottle with a black skull drawn on it. Poison. The guards dragged the woman out. She fell to her knees, crying and begging for mercy. She confessed everything. Some men had paid her to poison a special guest they heard was coming through town. They didn't know it would be the president himself. The customers gasped in horror. Some prayed aloud, others cried. President Ibrahim turned to the old woman. He felt shame burning in his heart. He had nearly thrown away his life because he didn't listen. He walked to her and knelt down, shocking everyone. "Mother," he said, tears in his eyes, "you saved my life." The old woman simply smiled. President Ibrahim Traoré stood quietly before the old woman. Around them, people still stared in shock, whispering and pointing. The restaurant was buzzing with noise, but Ibrahim's mind was focused only on her. "Mother," he said softly, "please come with me." Without waiting for another word, he held her by the hand and led her to a quiet corner behind the restaurant, away from curious eyes. His guards followed, but he waved them off. "Stay back," he ordered. Now alone with the old woman, he asked, "How did you know the food was poisoned? And how did you know to come here?" The old woman looked at him with wise, tired eyes. "My son," she said gently, "I see things others don't. Last night I had a dream. I saw you sitting at a table about to eat food that would unalive you. I saw a darkness around you. So I came. I had to save you." Ibrahim stared at her speechless. He felt chills run down his spine. "But that's not all," the old woman continued, her voice growing serious. She leaned closer and whispered, "You must be careful. Not all the people around you love you. Some of your own guards. They are pretending, smiling in front of you, but holding knives behind their backs." President Ibrahim's eyes widened in shock. His heart raced. He trusted his guards with his life. These were men he had known for years. He had fought beside them. How could this be true? "Impossible," he whispered. The old woman shook her head sadly. "Your wife warned you before? She saw signs, but you, like many men, refused to listen." Ibrahim gasped. His mouth dropped open. His wife, sweet and wise, had once told him that she didn't trust some of his guards. She had felt something wrong in her heart, but he had laughed and said, "You are just worrying too much, my love. These men would unalive themselves for me." Now standing in front of this poor old woman, her words hit him like a heavy hammer. "How do you know all this?" he asked, his voice trembling. The old woman smiled kindly. "I know many things, my son. I have lived many years. I have seen kings rise and fall. I have seen betrayal in places you would never imagine. I see things others cannot." Ibrahim felt weak in the knees. He sat down on a broken bench nearby, holding his head in his hands. Who could he trust now? Who was real? Who was fake? The old woman placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Do not be afraid," she said. "God has protected you today. He has given you another chance, but you must open your eyes." Ibrahim looked up at her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Mother, I will not let you go. From today, you will live with me. You will stay close. I need your wisdom." The old woman laughed softly. "Me live in a palace. I am just a poor old woman. You are more important than all the gold in my house," Ibrahim said firmly. "You saved my life. You opened my eyes." At that moment, some of his guards came running. "Sir, the local police have arrived. They have arrested the woman who tried to poison you." Ibrahim stood up and said, "Good. Make sure she faces justice and find out who sent her." "Yes, sir," the guards replied. Ibrahim turned back to the old woman. "Come, let's leave this place." He personally opened the car door for her, shocking even his guards. They had never seen the president treat anyone like that. Inside the car, the old woman sat quietly beside him, looking out the window as the city passed by. Ibrahim studied her. She seemed so simple, yet she carried a power that felt greater than anything he had ever known. As they drove, the old woman spoke again, her voice soft but firm. "My son, power is dangerous. It attracts both good and evil. You must stay humble. Listen to your wife more, and never allow pride to close your ears." Ibrahim nodded deeply. "I promise, mother." The guards were still confused. Who was this old woman? Why was the president treating her like royalty? When they finally reached the presidential mansion, Ibrahim helped her out of the car with his own hands. The mansion workers stood frozen in shock as they watched the most powerful man in the country walk hand in hand with an old poor woman. "Prepare a room for her," Ibrahim ordered. "The best room." "Yes, sir," they all responded at once. That night, as Ibrahim sat alone in his private study, he thought deeply about everything. His mind raced. He thought about the faces of his guards, the ones who had laughed with him, eaten with him, protected him. Now he wondered which of them was waiting to stab him in the back. He shook his head sadly. Trust is like glass. Once broken, it can never be whole again. The next morning, President Ibrahim Traoré woke up feeling different. He had hardly slept the whole night. His mind kept returning to the old woman's words. "Some of your guards are not to be trusted." He called for a private meeting. Only his most trusted guards were allowed inside the presidential meeting room. The old woman sat quietly in a corner, dressed in a clean new gown that one of the mansion workers had given her. When the guards arrived, they stood tall and proud. They had served him for years. Surely none of them would betray him. Ibrahim looked at their faces one by one. Some smiled, some looked serious. But now he saw something he had never seen before. Secrets hidden behind their eyes. The old woman spoke quietly, but her voice carried power. "Tell them to swear before God that they have no evil in their hearts toward you," she said. President Ibrahim nodded. "One by one, step forward and swear that you have no evil plans against me," he commanded. The room grew cold. The first guard stepped forward confidently, placed his hand on the Bible, and swore. He looked honest. Ibrahim believed him. The second guard followed. He swore too, but his hand trembled slightly. The old woman's sharp eyes caught it immediately. The third guard came. His voice was loud, but his eyes darted around nervously. Sweat poured down his forehead. By the time the fourth guard came forward, the old woman stood up. "That one," she pointed firmly at the third guard. "Ask him again." Ibrahim's heart raced. "Swear again," he said, his voice sharp. The third guard stammered, his knees shook. Suddenly he fell to the floor crying. "Please forgive me, sir. They forced me. They offered me money. They said, if I help poison you, my family will be rich forever." He sobbed. The room exploded in noise. Some guards shouted. Others cursed him. Ibrahim stood still, his heart heavy. This was a man he had trusted, a man he had once called brother. "Who are they?" Ibrahim asked quietly. "They are enemies from outside," the man cried. "People who hate you because you fight for the poor. They know you are changing the country. They want you dead." Ibrahim's jaw tightened. His hands balled into fists, but he stayed calm. Rage would solve nothing. He turned to his chief of security. "Take him away. Find out who else is involved." "Yes, sir," they replied. The traitor was dragged out, still crying. Silence filled the room. The old woman walked to Ibrahim and placed her hand on his shoulder. "You see, my son," she said gently, "powerful men die not from their enemies' knives, but from their friends' smiles." Ibrahim bowed his head in respect. "You have saved me again, mother. I owe you my life." Tears filled the old woman's eyes. "I only did what God sent me to do." Ibrahim stood before his remaining guards. "From today," he said firmly, "loyalty will not be measured by years of service, but by the truth inside your hearts." The guards nodded. Fear and respect filled their faces. After the meeting, Ibrahim took the old woman to the garden behind the mansion. They sat under a big tree enjoying the fresh air. He turned to her and said, "Mother, what can I do to thank you?" The old woman smiled warmly. "Live wisely. Serve your people with love. That is all I ask." But Ibrahim was not satisfied. He called his wife and children. They came out surprised to see the old woman sitting beside the president. "This is your new grandmother," Ibrahim announced. The children cheered and hugged her. His wife smiled warmly and the old woman for saving her husband. From that day, the old woman lived in the presidential mansion, loved and respected by everyone. She had her own beautiful room, fresh clothes, good food, and people to care for her. But more than that, she had a family again, something she had lost many years ago. Ibrahim visited her every evening. He sat at her feet like a little boy, listening to her stories, learning wisdom that no book could teach. Slowly, Ibrahim became a new leader, wiser, kinder, and stronger. He trusted carefully. He listened more. He worked harder to protect the poor and fight injustice. The people loved him more than ever. Dear viewers, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, share with your friends, and turn on the post notification bell so you'll be the first to know whenever we upload a new video. Thank you for watching. Love to see you again.